For
SoFi is 5.
The reason why I gave it 4.5 is because I when I went there twice, they ran out of food in certain concession areas. But that's okay. That's part of the Yelp review situation.
Yelp review.
Levi's is celebrating 10 years this year.
Yeah.
888-957-9570. Line them up. You have 30 seconds. Give us your Yelp review 10 years in on Levi Stadium.
What would Matt Barrows' Yelp review be of Levi Stadium? He's covered the team for a long, long time. Matt Barrows joins us on the River Islands guest line. All guests on 95.7 The Game appear on the River Islands guest line. Isn't it time for you to discover the islands, River Islands in Lathrop? Matt Barrows joins us once again here on the Morning Rush on 95.7 The Game. Good morning, Matt, and I'm going to put you on the clock. 30 seconds or 15. If you got a Yelp review for Levi Stadium, you're in that press box. So when I know about that press box spread, it's pretty damn good. It's getting 5 stars alone.
Oh, my God.
What would your Yelp review be of Levi Stadiums, Matt?
Yeah, I'm sitting up there fat and happy. For me, it's all about the elevators. Do you remember the candlestick elevator?
I do. It was terrible.
Nicknamed Old Sparky because it would take maybe 17 minutes for it to go from one floor to another. This stadium has a bank of elevators, and they're all working in concert, working well. So for me, it's a total win moving from Candlestick to Levi.
Yeah, the elevators are great. The press box spread is great. If it's a 1:00 game, you get your omelet bar. If it's a night game, they got roast beef, they got prime rib. Then, of course, halftime, they come out with the nachos and the chili and the cheese and the chicken tenders. I could talk all day long about the press box spread, but that's not why we have you on, Matt. The joint practices have been scheduled. Now, earlier this summer, Shanahan said, they don't host teams at their facility for joint practices because they don't have enough space. But then I recalled, didn't they host the Denver Broncos back in 2017 or 18 for some joint practices at Levi Stadium?
They did, and I think that experience wasn't great. I mean, it was totally cramped. The 49ers have 2 practice fields, and neither of them is 100 yards long. So when you hold joint practices, you are hoping that your 1s, 2s, and 3s can go against the other team's 1s, 2s, and 3s. So, a lot of reps for everybody. And that really requires three fields. The 49ers have basically 1.7 fields. So that's why it's so cramped and why they like to go on the road for those types of things.
That's kind of crazy. Like, it's a brand new, essentially brand new still facility. How did they not think that far ahead? I'm a little, or at least try to acquire land around the stadium.
Well, they have. That's been a big bone of contention between the 49ers and the city of Santa Clara. But you guys may have noticed that land isn't exactly in abundance in the old Bay Area, and it's expensive. But this is they're practicing at their team facility, which is what they've done since 2003. So they've been at that spot. It works well for them during the season. What doesn't work well is having a guest, another 90 guys show up. You could go to a neutral site, I suppose. These guys are so particular, though, about the fields and the facilities and the film rooms that, like I said, the Vegas, the Raiders have a really, really spectacular facility in Henderson. That seems like moving forward that could be a good spot for joint practices on an annual basis.
Yeah, it feels like as the exhibition season or the preseason games get de-emphasized and lowered, these joint practices take on more and more importance. And so, look, you've been covering this team a long time. What, 20, 25 years, Matt?
Yeah, since 2003.
Yeah. So, can you remember the team being this banged up at this point in training camp?
Yes, I do. Mike Singletary had something called
Oklahoma drill.
Mike Singletary was. Mike Singletary ran training camps like it was 1985. Yeah. He had something called the Nutcracker drill. Yeah. Not making it up.
No, I know. I remember that. I'm laughing because I can see the Oklahoma drill, the Nutcracker drill, and then the hill that he had built.
This was the Oklahoma drill on steroids. It was brutal, and he had like the stars doing it. It was Patrick Willis going up against Eric Heitman, and all the starters, and surprise, a bunch of them got hurt, and it did not go over well with the players, and so that was a very injury filled summer. I remember Dennis Erickson. Those eras used to go out to practice, and a PR staffer would come by with a sheet of paper that had that day's injuries on it. The guys weren't practicing. And, most of the time it was maybe like 6 or 7 names. There was a day under Dennis Erickson where it was front and back. I mean, the names went off the front page. You had to flip it over, and there were another like 15 on the backside as well. So it's not out of the realm. What Shanahan's point was yesterday, and it was a hard point for him to make because he began his press conference by saying that Kalia Davis, who had such a nice game on Saturday, had a knee injury. He needed surgery. He'd be out for months. But then he noted that, most of the injuries we've had are strains, and we're talking, 10-day to 3-week injuries instead of 3-month injuries. So most of the guys who are out right now should be back by the end of the month, and then should be full go to begin the season. To me, it's just the speed and the amount of running that they do at these practices. The players have said, especially players who have played elsewhere in their careers, have all said that these practices are more intense, they're faster than anywhere else in the league, and I think that's what leads to it's mostly been hamstring strains for this team. They've had maybe almost 15 or so hamstring strains, and so that's the major injury that's keeping guys off the field.
Talking to Matt Barrows here on the River Islands guest line here on the Morning Rush on 95.7 The Game. Matt, before we get to Aiyuk and Trent Williams, because obviously we're going to ask about that, but Ricky Pearsall, the first-round pick, we know he's hurt his shoulder. He didn't play in the preseason opener against Tennessee. What's his availability for Sunday? When can we expect him to be back on the practice field?
He was running around on a side field yesterday, and that doesn't really mean as much when the guy has a upper body injury like Pearsall does. But it does seem like he's close to coming back. They've got the day off today. They have a block of practices Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. These are going to be the replacement for the joint practices. So we can expect these to be fairly intense too. And I'm sure that the 49ers want him to be back for those so that he can take part in the Saints game on Sunday. So I'm looking for him on Wednesday. I haven't heard that though, but he seems close to returning.
Aiyuk, Trent Williams, is there anything? I mean, what is going on? It's like the good, the bad, the ugly. It's like a stare-off.
Yeah, I got nothing for you. I mean, I think we talked, I forget when our last conversation was last week. Really hasn't changed much since then. Here's where things stand. It's the Steelers or the 49ers. And the Steelers deal probably would be done if the Steelers had offered the 49ers an abundance of riches, something like what the Cleveland Browns were offering. That hasn't happened. And the way I see it, I mean, I feel like the farther this goes on, the less apt the Steelers would be to make that sweetheart offer. Because, we're about to start the season here. And Aiyuk hasn't taken part. How much can he really help them? His value to them probably goes down a little bit with every week that this goes on. So, I mean, part of me has thought that the 49ers don't want to deal him at all and that they're sort of slow playing this, manipulating it from their end. They do have the control. He's under contract. And they can force the issue if they want to. Now, I say that, and, at the same time, they probably would have accepted the Browns deal had Aiyuk wanted to go to Cleveland. He didn't. They probably would have accepted the Patriots deal had Aiyuk wanted to go to New England. He didn't. And maybe they knew that. But that's always been in the back of my mind that, the 49ers don't want to trade Aiyuk. They want him here. They're acquiescing to his trade demands, but in a way that kind of shows him, okay, these are your choices. If you don't like them, you can always come back here. We had a really good season last year. we've got a good young quarterback that we want you to basically grow old with over the next decade. So maybe you should kind of rethink where you want to be. I've always thought that was the subtext behind everything that they're doing, and it might end up being that way. I'm sure everybody involved wants this to be over right away so that he can get at least one preseason game in, get at least some practices in. That's going to be the next kind of storyline with Aiyuk. He didn't practice in the spring. He hasn't practiced in the summer. He had spectacular practices both in the spring and the summer last year, which led to his remarkable season. Hard to see him duplicating that with no practice in the offseason.
You know, Shanahan, maybe I'm reading too deeply into this, but listening to his presser yesterday, Matt, it certainly sounded like he felt as confident that they're bringing Brandon Aiyuk back with the way he talked about, hey, I trust Brandon to be ready for the season. I think he's going to work hard. I trust Brandon there. Last week, it felt like the rhetoric was, our former teammate, and the situation sinks. But yesterday, maybe I'm looking too – did you read it like that too, Matt, where it's like, Shanahan's kind of changing his tune a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, the way I see it, I keep going back to Shanahan's "nothing's changed" quote. And I think that's the underlying frustration, that they're basically in the same boat. They're not exactly sure what he wants to do. I don't know where the Steelers kind of came from. It's a little odd that, a guy who's under contract, I mean, a free agent, you understand. He's going to have a list of teams that he wants to go to. But a guy who's still under contract, it's strange that he would pick two other teams that I know that the Steelers had a nice record last year, but they're in a tough division. They're rebuilding in a lot of ways. I think that surprised the 49ers that he, had these other teams maybe above the 49ers. So there's a little bit frustration, disbelief in what's happening. I think that they just want Aiyuk to make a commitment to being back here.
So what about the other wide receivers? Because I'm looking at this like Debo's making the team. Pearsall's making the team. Feels like Conley's making the team. That's 3. Aiyuk, let's just put him up in the air. I know that Trent Taylor's, doing returns. I think he's lousy. But it sounds like he's going to make the team. Juwan Jennings will make the team. Where does that leave Cowing? Where does that leave Tay Martin, who made a lot of plays? I know he dropped the big ball from Brandon Allen the other day. Where does that leave those guys? Like Danny Gray feels like an afterthought. What do you think in terms of this wide receiver room beyond the guys that I mentioned?
Well, they usually keep 6. So if you're including Aiyuk in that picture, you just name 6 receivers. Cowing, he's been in and out of the lineup with injuries. He didn't look all that great yesterday. He had a drop. They need to see something from him in order for him to make the team. If not, he either goes to the practice squad or an injury list, or maybe some other team picks him up off of waivers. The 49ers had 3 guys snapped up off of waivers last year. So they're one of the teams that the other teams are circling on cutdown day, which I think is August 27 this year. So I think wide receiver is going to be one of the positions that other teams are looking at. I think cornerback certainly is. They're going to have to cut a good cornerback. To me, let's just assume that Aiyuk is still on the roster.
Okay.
It's Aiyuk, Debo Samuel, Juwan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, Conley. Conley is Aiyuk's backup, basically.
Yeah.
So even
and a
if
special teamer
is back, I just don't see Aiyuk gets like 98 to 99% of the snaps on game days. I don't know if he can even do that if he hasn't had a full training camp, at least not in week 1. So I think Conley would be necessary. Now, the thing with Conley and Taylor is that you can sort of move them up and down from the practice squad as you like. So that's a wrinkle that I think it may be that one or even both of those guys aren't on the 53-man roster per se, but you see them in uniform every week. So there are ways for this team to hold on to a Cowing, hold on to a Ronnie Bell, and also get the game day experience of a Trent Taylor or a Chris Conley.
Real quick before we let you go, Matty, because we're up against it here. Fred Warner. Should we be concerned about Fred Warner's injury?
No, he was back yesterday.
Okay,
and,
good deal.
Even if you were struggling with your sight, you knew that Fred Warner was back at practice because he was loud and he was doing his usual thing where he's cheering on his defensive mates. He's talking, to the offensive players. So it's always, if you're the 49ers, you always want to see Fred Warner back in the lineup. But I think it's even more important now during these sort of dog days of August where you have so many injuries. You just had the canceled joint practices. They need a shot of adrenaline. Fred Warner's the guy that provides it on defense. George Kittle's the guy that provides it on offense. So both of those guys were in practice yesterday.
All right, Matty B, enjoy your day off. You should be intense over the next 3 days. And let's see if we get some healthy bodies. And hopefully by the time you get back to Santa Clara, the Brandon Aiyuk situation has been resolved. But we'll cross our fingers on that. Thanks for the time today, Matt.
We can only hope.
We can only hope. It's nauseating, no doubt about it. All right, Matt, take care, man. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Matt Barrows, 49ers insider for The Athletic here on the River Islands guest line. Fred Warner's back. Good news.
Great news.
Great news, right?
I'm just looking at this wide receiver depth chart. Maybe I'm getting too in the weeds here, but Aiyuk, Debo, Jennings, Pearsall, that's 4. He's saying Conley and Taylor, 5, 6. So they've historically kept about 6. That means you're cutting Cowan, Tay Martin, and Ronnie Bell.
Maybe you're putting Cowie out of practice squad or trying to slip him through the practice squad.
I don't see where he hasn't played and no one's seen him. I don't see how he's going to get elevated to another.
So put him on the practice squad.
No, that's what I'm saying. I don't see how another team is going to claim him and then play him.
Wow, Ronnie Bell getting cut like that.
Isn't that interesting?
Year number 2. Damn.